Mr. Hughes, do you have a moment? I just want to pull you away from the access to information.
Could you just have him back with the building in the background?
He wanted the building in the background. Look at the sun's direction. Audio check 1 2. Mr. Hughes, apart from this here, I'm very happy that you're back from Kokwani. Could we have an update on the talks between the AFC and the PNC?
Okay, to date, the parties have exchanged very, very useful and progressive ideas. We continue to be in discussions until the 31st of March, and we continue to be hopeful. The Alliance for Change appreciates and recognizes the importance of this particular moment in history for the country, and the Alliance for Change, and I personally am prepared to step aside from presidential candidature in favor of a consensus third candidate who can unite the opposition in the interest of the country. We cannot afford at this time in our history not to have a united opposition, and we believe that where we can find that consensus candidate who can unite all of us and take this country forward, we cannot afford at this point in time not to be successful.
Thank you. If I'm hearing you correctly, you are prepared to step aside for someone else who will be or is the president or could be the presidential candidate for the Alliance for Change.
Step aside for a third candidate if we reach a stage of some impasse.
Do you think you might have gotten that impression or that agreement from the PNCR?
No, I have not had any direct communication or contact with the PNCR. As you know, both sides have very, very competent negotiators, and I certainly have not been involved in the negotiations. I've given them a mandate, I've given them a scope, and they have a discretion. And until they come back and report to me finally, I am not going to offer any comment.
Are you willing to say who the AFC's consensus candidates might be?
Well, I think there are quite a few people in the society. You can have a country as large as Guyana and not have some personality that can unite the
but
opposition.
Nigel Hughes must have someone. I mean, it's not a cross-examination.
I think there are people out there. You've got Dr. Campbell, you've got, other people who are out there. There are quite a few people out there.
Thank you. When did you say the next talks with the PNCR?
Well, the talks have been ongoing. I think they're ongoing daily. The 31st is Monday, and hopefully by then we will see the light.
Given that you're willing to step aside to allow for a consensus candidate, what would be then your role? You must have.
I'm not the important factor here. Guyana is the important factor, and I don't hold any particular request that I play a particular role. I think the important thing is that this country has to be rescued from the PPP.
You're in talk with your partner.
No, other than that one occasion when Mr. Mohammed and his father consulted me professionally, no, I have not been in contact. I heard the Vice President's comments yesterday about because people from the AFC share Azruddin's post that somehow that indicates a collaboration. The reality is Mr. Azruddin is very popular. He arrives in several parts of the country and he's flocked. That's a fact. And naturally, I think our supporters, PNC supporters, several supporters share his posts, as do others share ours. So, no, we have no formal arrangements at this stage.
In those talks, anything come across concerning joining up with any parties?
In the talks?
Yeah.
No, I haven't. I have distinctively not participated in the talks because we are confident in our negotiators and we've given them the scope. So I've said to them, unless there's a crisis, you don't need to revert. So until they come back to me, no.
You've also been engaged in listening and grounding the AFC. What are some of the more, complaints that are affecting the citizenry?
The number one complaint is cost of living. Absolutely, cost of living. The second complaint, I think most people support this, is the corruption, the absolute level of corruption. And thirdly, after that, it's the question of vision for the future. I do want to if I could, take advantage of this opportunity to say that it appears as if our president misled the Secretary of State yesterday to cause him to make a statement about the highway, which was not built by the Chinese, which was not built by the previous administration, which I believe the Secretary of State accurately described as concussion highway, But it puts the country in a very dangerous position because now the United States will probably receive some sort of low-level protest from China because the Secretary of State went to town in China in relation to that road. And clearly he had been fed information because the only person he met with was the president, by the president, that indicated that, first of all, the road was built by the Chinese. 2, that it was built during the last regime. Both of those are incorrect. And while the Secretary of State made that statement, the president did not have the decency to say, Mr. Secretary of State, that's not quite correct. And this is about responsibility. And here we have the United States Secretary of State confirming the absolutely poor quality of the construction done by this government. And I believe, if I quote him correctly, he says it was better we had a dam. So you can't get a better commentary on a road produced by this present administration.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I wasn't able to get your thoughts.
Leader of the AFC, Nigel Hughes, updates on the talks between the Alliance for Change and the PNC arm.
And people